Blackstone Boulevard, in case you're curious.
Yes, family. Yeah.
Okay.
He just passed away. I bet you know that.
Oh, did you know that? Yeah. Oh, yes. Froma told us that
Yeah.
Mr. Goldstein had passed away. So you're going to open us, Cass, as you.
Are we going to open with our theme?
You can do whatever you like, my dear. Ready to roll.
Are you ready to begin, madam?
I am. How long are we going to go for?
2 days.
He can't help himself. Usually it's about 20 minutes.
Is a half hour good?
20 minutes to half hour, somewhere like that.
Something like that's perfect.
Okay, great. So
And
I'm
she's
going to
gonna-
push the button.
Yep, and
that
she's-
says, no, we're recording. I don't have to do that, do I?
I don't know.
Diego said we were already recording
Did he?
on the software.
Fine.
Yes.
So music intro if you're going to do it or whatever you're going to do.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Deb Moraes.
Good afternoon, everyone. You're listening to livingthegoodlifepodcast.com with me. I'm Deb Moraes, and you're...
Steve Kass at Last Check.
Last check. We're so happy to have you all with us, and today we have a wonderful special guest, a Rhode Islander, Miss Helena Bonanno, a name people might know, Helena Bonanno Folks. Welcome, Helena. So glad that you're with us.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you.
Now, tell our audience why we have you as a guest.
There are so many reasons.
What's the
That's a
main
good
reason?
question, Steve. Why did you ask me? I have no idea.
Well, because you're famous. You ran for governor once. I was a big fan of yours. I thought you were overqualified to represent us in this crazy little state.
Thank you.
With a legislature that I hate.
Oh,
but that's beside the
Don't
point.
go there.
And if you get elected, you're going to have to deal with them, and God bless you.
Don't go there.
Well, I'm honored to be on. Yes, I'm born and raised in Rhode Island. I love the state. I got to build a great career here at CBS over 25 years. And I really had the honor of running for governor last time. I loved it. I didn't get the outcome I wanted, but I felt like I was a better person for it. And so I've been spending a lot of time connecting with the community since then.
And you have been even recently, from what we've seen. We've seen the newspaper clips, some video clips. So you're definitely out there in the community. There was a children's park, if I recall, that you were at fairly recently. Yes?
Yeah, I go all over. I just my whole purpose has been to see how I can help people and meet new people. And so lots of times I will just show up at community events. And I have done a whole series of gatherings in people's homes where I get to listen. But I also have done a lot of work in a couple communities around education, which was an issue that I really care about. I've also been working in the housing sector because that's also something that's so important to Rhode Islanders. So I've had a lot of different opportunities to meet new people, and it's been great.
My first question, since you said the magic word to me, education, I pulled my 3 children out of public schools when they were, I guess, in middle school, and they're now in their 60s. Mm-hmm. It was terrible then, and it's terrible now. So can you, if elected, I promise I will fix it. Your turn.
What are your thoughts, Helena?
Well, it's so important, and there are bright spots. There are amazing teachers in their schools, and there's some great examples, even the latest RICAS scores about schools that have made great strides. But it's also easy to feel like we're not doing justice for our children. I do feel that way. And it makes me really sad because whether you have your children in Barrington or a school community where the school scores are very high, we still have opportunity to be better. But most importantly, I would say in our inner cities, we're leaving our children behind. I've been doing work in Central Falls. That's an amazing mayor in Central Falls. It's been under state control for over 30 years. And last year, 6% of the kids passed their grade level reading and 5% in math, something like that. So it's a lot of problems, though. We've spent time meeting with people, and there are many, many challenges. There are some really hardworking teachers, but we need to be doing more. We've got a lot of challenges.
Amen.
And in some of the things that I've done, I handle marketing, advertising, and public relations. I think wasn't it Linda Maya who was your person?
Linda was nice help. Yeah.
Yes. So I remember her. I used to work with her. But in either case, when I remember working with the Providence Teachers Union for some time, I do remember the challenges that Providence had, the issues that they have, the number of languages, certainly so many challenges. So I hear that you are interested in education, a key issue, housing, certainly a key issue. And I think I remember reading somewhere that you are, you know that people here want to have hope and want to be solving problems. Since you're already known as a purpose-driven leader, what's your purpose now in the political arena? I know it's early, it's not 2027, I guess. What's your purpose now? What's your key issue?
Well, what I've really been trying to do is listen. I think a gift in my whole journey in life has been to listen to people at the front line and really understand what they need from leaders. I always said when I was working at CVS that I got my best ideas going to pharmacies and watching customers interact with pharmacists and seeing what the challenges were and talking to the pharmacists and the technicians. And so I've been spending a lot of time listening and really trying to understand what do the people of Rhode Island most need in a leader. And yes, I'm not officially in a race right now, but I'm certainly gearing up. I'd like to be in a position to run for governor, and so I'm really trying to make sure that I'm using this time to listen to the experts, see what's happening on the ground, and then really thinking about what could I take from all of this to make me a leader who could really serve all the people of Rhode Island, no matter what they're.
And certainly, when I've looked at your CV, so to speak, I was very well aware of your recent campaign. We were supportive of you. Certainly, that's terrific. But meanwhile, doing the drill down, looking at some of the things that you've paid attention to, boards you've served on, it does seem that you really have been looking at doing a lot of strategic vision and strategic planning. And the targets, I think I listed, Skillsoft, which is a training issue, Harry's, which was about consumer programs. So somewhere between listening and turning it into some tactical plans, it does seem like you have all of those pieces certainly in place, this in addition to CVS and the wonders of what you've done for them. But it does seem that your ducks are in line with what would be a good bid for governor. 2027, I guess, is when it's happening.
26. It's only 26. 2 years away.
Okay, 26. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, no, thanks for that. Yes, I've enjoyed my time. I've always been a student of leadership. So serving on boards, you really get to take a look at leaders. I joined the board of Costco. This is a company whose CEO started 40 years ago as a forklift driver. And I would say that it's a company that reminds me of CVS in many ways because at its core, it starts with a great culture and a servant leadership mindset for the people at the top, really thinking about how do they serve their frontline workers. And, and I think that's what the people of Rhode Island are looking for is leaders who are really focused on serving them. I mean, you look at the bridge, the Washington Bridge, and a lot of people are affected every single day. They've had to quit their jobs or change their daycare or change their schools. And if they own small businesses, they've been affected. And so it's complicated, and sometimes you inherit problems. But I think the job of a leader is to take action and be accountable to the people of Rhode Island. And so I'm out there trying to learn as much as I can about what the people of Rhode Island really want from their leaders.
Speaking of CVS, as you know, there's a debate going on as to whether or not they're going to leave Rhode Island. What do you think?
I don't think they will leave Rhode Island. I think they have other bigger challenges that they're focused on right now as they think about their business model and if all the pieces and parts should stay together. They've got campuses all around the country. So Dallas, Chicago, Hartford, There are many, many places where people work across that enterprise. But I'm hopeful that this is a place that's really important to them. There are a lot of employees in this state. And I think that the new leader is a fantastic person. I know him very well. I worked with him for probably over a decade. And I think he wants to do the right thing. And I know that he cares about Rhode Island too. So I'm hopeful.
What about Hasbro?
Hasbro, I'm less hopeful. I think that we have a very good chance, unfortunately, of losing Hasbro. And I don't think it's about a deal necessarily as much as thinking about how do we position ourselves for talent. And this actually goes back to schools. So one of the things I found when I was recruiting people to come work at CVS is they were bringing their families with them, and they wanted to make sure they could access great public schools. Many, many times we found they were buying homes in Massachusetts and commuting to Woonsocket. But I think that's an issue as we think about recruiting and retaining these companies, because these companies provide really good paying jobs for people. And that's what we most need in this state. Is when I hear people talk to me about the number one challenge, it is always around, I worry that my children and grandchildren won't be able to stay here. We all love it, but will there be the jobs that will allow them to live a good life here? And so these big companies are really important in that sense. They provide very good paying jobs. They also provide the follow-on services. I remember being in my dry cleaners the morning the Hasbro news came out, and he was worried about it because all those Hasbro employees are customers of his. So small businesses rely on big businesses in Rhode Island, and we've got to be nurturing all of them.
If I think about Cass's first comment about CVS, and you're obviously being a recognized leader in healthcare, and we understand that you understand big business because you've certainly been deeply involved in that. I was thinking as you were speaking, a recent conversation that we had during a podcast with Dr. Michael Fine. His comment was, we really are lacking primary care physicians. So many of them they aren't available. So you end up with a PA, a physician's assistant. His thought was, well, we have a great educational facility, namely Brown University. What would happen if the state, for example, had a commitment to students paying their education to become a medical doctor, primary care, commit for at least 5 years? We would have an opportunity to fund that pool that we need to have filled, plus help underwrite education, which is certainly a critical issue. I don't know how that could actually happen. Obviously, there are lots of balls in play when you're talking about something like that. But conceptually, it seemed like a very interesting concept that served many needs, from jobs to education to I can't find a primary care doctor. What am I supposed to do? You must have some perspective on that. I'd be curious just to have you weigh in on that, if you would.
Yeah, I do have a perspective. I mean, it's very, very important that we have enough primary care physicians, and that is a real threat to Rhode Islanders right now.
Yes.
I hear all the time, oh my gosh, I'm so worried my primary care physician's going to retire. And then what will I do? I can't find a new one. When I meet with primary care physicians, many of them love living here, but they actually work in Massachusetts or Connecticut. And they do that really for one simple reason, which is the reimbursement rates are much higher, 30% higher in those states.
Wow, that's substantial, sure.
So I think that we really have to think about that. Now, that's a huge budget challenge, and I understand why state leaders have had a hard time tackling it, but that's something we've got to think about. The other thing I would say is that we also need to be making sure that we've got a pipeline of other healthcare providers, because physician assistants can be amazing. Nurse practitioners can be amazing. And so making sure that everyone is operating, as we used to call it in the healthcare sector, or we still do, the top of their license is also really important. My dermatologist, for example, is a nurse practitioner. She's incredible. And so I'm very, very satisfied. And And so we do need to create a greater pipeline of primary care physicians. I think Dr. Fine's idea of thinking about how we create the right funding mechanism. So I met with a primary care physician last week who told me she has young docs coming out of medical school who have $500,000 in debt in medical school.
Yes.
It's unsustainable. So all those things should be on the table in terms of thinking about how we make this a more attractive place for doctors to stay and practice, because we're creating a lot of them with Brown University, and then many of them are leaving us.
What about a medical school at URI?
They're looking at it, and I don't know enough about it yet, but certainly that could be on the table too.
It's interesting. There are so many things that you've done over your career and even in your community service all seem to tie together in some very important issues that align with some of the big issues that are facing our state. So that makes sense, and you've got a couple of years before you have to or really start campaigning, or a year or so before you have to start campaigning. You had to serve your time first time through and narrowly lost to Governor McKee. What do you think your big challenges will be this time?
Well, I think that I learned so much, and as I said at the beginning, I'm so grateful for the experience. I really loved it. I got to meet incredible people all across the state, and I really felt like I could bring the leadership that's required. And I think that executive leadership is different than legislative leadership. I think executive leadership means you can attract the greatest talent to those top positions in the state and make sure that each function has a plan and that you're holding them accountable. And so I get excited about the opportunity to think about doing that for the people of Rhode Island. As I think about the challenges, it's really just getting out there and meeting more people and learning more about the issues. And it's a little state, but there are a million people. There are a lot of people to meet, and I'm trying to get to every corner of the state. It's so fun when I get to go to some of the smaller towns and just learn about what their issues are. I had a great day a couple weeks ago on Block Island, for example, with some really dedicated full-year residents who care very much about all the same issues we've been talking about, but they have their own nuances. And so thinking about what's relevant for the local towns and how they should be different, but where are the shared concerns that people have? For example, do they attract enough people to work in their industry also, and be able to provide housing for those at an affordable rate? So there's a lot of similarities, and I've really enjoyed getting to meet people.
Sounds good.
Everywhere I go and I mention your name, and we both think that you're wonderful and would be a fabulous governor. But people say, how come she's a corporate big shot and she's a Democrat?
That's a great question.
They don't understand that, because supposedly only Republicans have been in big, and Democrats have never been a sort of a big business symbol. What's your answer to that, Doc?
Well, I've been a lifelong Democrat. I grew up in a family of Democrats, and I think that for me, the principles of taking care of those who are the weakest among us is a very important part of my family teaching me those values, and I think those are Democratic values. I also think the Democratic Party should be really proud of businesses and the role that businesses play, because when you have a strong economy, you have enough money to invest in all the social services that we need. And in Rhode Island, we are older and poorer than most of the rest of New England. So from my business skill, really good jobs for people is how you get people out of poverty and how you keep investing in the right services for everyone.
Sounds right. It sounds right. Digitally, you're interested in and you're aware of that digital innovations, many of which are terrific. Also, flip side, the obverse of that is that they're also problematic. Have a thought about that? AI.
Yes, every day.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Look at AI. Look at this this presidential election right now. How do we trust what we see? What is real and what is fake?
Yes.
So I agree with you. AI can be really liberating. I have a young mentee who started her own beauty business, and she did almost all of it with AI, so she didn't need to hire a lot of extra services. She could do it herself, and she really herself up and running quickly. So there are a lot of magical things about AI, but there are also risks that they provide, and really making sure that all our citizens are thinking, discerning what's real and what's not. It's going to get more complicated, so I do worry about that.
If you're elected governor, you've mentioned education is very important to you. Is that the number one goal that you would look at beginning a term as governor to fix that?
I think it's part of a goal, but I wouldn't call it the only. I think right now I'm listening to Rhode Islanders. The number one goal that I hear from people is help us get access to great paying jobs, and connected to that is you go to college or not, because you don't need to go to college to get a great education and really the skills for some of these jobs that are coming to fruition right now. So I think jobs is really important. I also think that the cost of housing is really crushing people at this moment. There are a lot of young people who are back living with their parents and not able. They're thinking about a world where they have to choose between having children and owning a home. Our homelessness crisis is the worst it's ever been in our state's history. There are thousands of people living on the streets every day. So there are a lot of issues, but I would say jobs, housing, and then really the state work for everyday Rhode Islanders, just making it work so that they can have trust and confidence in the state.
Part of the confidence issue, I think, as you were mentioning AI, it is... it's so fraught. Probably a couple of weeks ago, we were talking with Darrell West, and he's published for years. And interestingly, one of his recent publications was about a citizen's guide to disinformation, I believe it was called. And so much of what he had researched and had written about was how can you get people to understand and how to have the critical thinking ability without spending an inordinate amount of time triple checking sources. And it's so easy to create with AI fake everything from a movie to everything, as you understand. And so at one point, as I too teach at times, in fact, I teach business to adults and also teens with developmental disabilities. And I know I'm very concerned at times, apart from teaching content, there's also how to help them not be victimized by the wonders of what the internet can do, because it also has many dark players.
Yeah. And I think that's why I really think we're at a point in time where the whole education system needs to be rethought. Even if you think about the focus on standardized tests in high school, we're living in a world where with AI, people are going to be able to answer lots of questions by, typing it in and getting the answer.
Yes.
And so I think we need to shift to thinking about what creates real passion for students and how do we start to have an earlier conversation with them. Not only about what you're raising, but also about what are the kinds of careers that excite them? What do they love to do? What could that lead to for them? And there's some really great things happening in the state right now. You look at the town of North Kingstown, they're really introducing their high school students to the wind industry. There is more career and technical education programming going on than ever before, and I'm excited about that. I just think we can build on all those things to do even more.
Talk about hopeful. That's great.
I think there's an election coming up, not too distant future, right?
Right.
Yes.
Are you voting for Trump? Probably not.
No,
just a wild guess. What do you think of Kamala?
I think it's a really important election, and I think that it's really not your standard Democrat versus Republican kind of election. It's really about integrity and having someone we trust. And I think that even if you worry about some of the things that Kamala might stand for from a policy perspective, at least you'll have in office someone who's really coming to the White House every day trying to do the right thing for the American people. And I think that's very, very important.
Do you think she's been forthcoming enough about what she wants to do, what her priorities are, or she's been playing it safe and basically saying, we're not going back?
You know, I'm really impressed. I got a chance to be at the Democratic Convention in August because my husband was a delegate from the first congressional district. He was elected. So I went as his guest, and I have to tell you, it was an amazing experience. I think the energy that she is creating across the country is unbelievable. I think she's thrown out there a lot of very specific ideas that she cares about, housing being one. And I think that it's also okay to modify your perspective over time. You learn more and you have a different point of view than you did 5 years ago. I think that's healthy leadership. I think sometimes she's been criticized for shifting her position, but I hope more leaders have the courage to do that. So I think we can all learn more about the specific policy issues but I think what she's really showing people at the end of the day is how much she cares and the high moral standards she'll hold when she is president of the United States.
My concern is, can we afford her? Can we afford Joe?
Can we afford our government?
And you've seen the spending has been astronomical. The national debt is skyrocketing, and if Trump gets in, it's going to be the worst yet. I mean, you have nowhere to go, and the national debt is. I remember the U.S. budget director came to me years ago with great concerns, and then it was like half of what it is now. Yeah. And he predicted exactly what was going to happen. And now they're talking about you're going to have to cut Social Security and the benefits because we don't have the money. And the latest prediction was yesterday. They said we definitely cannot afford what's going on to keep those things where they are. So if that doesn't bother people, I don't know what would. What do you think? In Rhode Island, with a $14 billion budget for a state this size with a population that's so small, I mean, I can't believe that we have that. Can you? As especially as a corporate executive?
Right. Well, I would say first on the national level, most economists would say that Kamala Harris will do a better job managing the national debt than Trump. So I do want to put that out there. When I was at CBS, I managed a budget that was $80 billion in size. And so the idea of managing a $14 billion budget for the state does not intimidate me. I think the most important thing that a leader has to do is get in and figure out if we're spending money in the right places that really serve people. I would love to be able to find opportunities to create savings in the $14 billion budget that could fund programs that really matter to people. I'll give you an example. We don't have free lunch in our schools for our kids, and we know when kids go to school hungry, they don't learn. This is something that would cost roughly $100 million. I think there's probably $100 million in a $14 billion budget that we could find and reallocate from something that's not working and making sure that our kids' tummies are full. So that's the sort of thing I'd love to be able to do. And that's where I think, having an experience of running a business would help me bring a new perspective. And obviously, you also have to surround yourself with people who really understand the state and understand the legislative process as well.
I think this particular conversation is probably one of the most substantive, not just because we're doing it, but I think it's one of the most substantive that I've heard that also include and reflect political issues, because I heard one or two topics ago that you were talking about kids and getting to find their passion, which was different, moving from how we need to fix education to the why, which is let's find their passion. And then with Kass's recent comment and question, the pivot was from we know what's going on here, and you are very adept at switching to, and here's the how. So I think that's I think those conversations are most productive. I'm so glad that we're having it right now. And this is an even better conversation than I would have imagined, even though I had high hopes for it myself.
Oh, stick with me, kid.
There's Cass. There's Cass.
35, 40 years of doing this. You get a little bit good at it, at least, hopefully.
And
with
Helena's
such a
terrific.
wonderful guest.
That's it. That's
How do you lose?
Great content.
You know, we should take you around various public places and do shows remotely.
Road shows.
Oh, that'd be fun. I'd love that.
Would you like that?
I would definitely love that.
Okay, you're on, because
I love
I
meeting
really
people.
think
I really do. It's super fun, and I always learn something.
I do think you're overqualified for this job. I
There's that.
sincerely
Well,
do.
thank you so much.
But I'm so grateful that we have an opportunity to elect someone of your quality. We had a recent election where a fabulous colonel in the Marine Corps was ignored for a congressional seat. And I thought if anybody wasn't appropriate, he was a Republican, of course, which in Rhode Island is a dirty word, I understand.
Ooh.
But never used to be, but apparently it became that somehow. But this poor, I mean, he was a friend of General Petraeus. He was a co-worker with the best general we have. And he was ignored, even by the military establishment here. But
It happens.
because he had that dirty REP whatever name, and he would have been a great addition to Congress, especially with what's going on in the world. My God! And our military is really looking at a grim future, I think.
This concludes the political editorializing from Cass.
Yes, not that I have an opinion on anything. No.
So just Helena, so you know, for years, Cass and I had done a radio show on WPRO on Sundays, and we did do the road show, which was called Living the Good Life we were usually perched at Venta Ravioli. It was a lot of fun. It never was political. He's always political. This is his opportunity to combine what we do, what we did together, and what he's always done, namely getting a little bit political, just a little bit.
Well, when I have such a distinguished guest to
Can't
talk
help.
to,
I understand.
turns me on.
It's
Sorry.
And that
I'm
he
not
means
used
that
to
in a good way.
this. I'm not used to this.
I take it that way. I take it that way. But I would also say that Gabe Amo is an amazing representative for the state. And I personally am really, really thrilled that he's representing us.
He's a wonderful guy. I think he's a great person. But if you looked at the experience of the two men, wait a minute, come on.
And let's
But
see where
anyway,
Gabe goes, right? That's the story.
Well, I
We'll have
have.
a great trajectory.
He was in the Marines and I was in the Army, so we can still talk to each other.
That's good too.
All right, have we tied you up long enough?
Is there any question that we haven't asked that you'd like to have an opportunity to address?
Give a speech.
Oh, no, thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. I would encourage Rhode Islanders to have faith and have hope. You know, I think it's easy to get down and feel discouraged, but I'm quite optimistic and hopeful about our state. Everywhere I go, people tell me all the problems, and yet at the end, they always say to me, but you know what? I really love living here. And I think that's true. We're very blessed to live in a beautiful state. And part of what we all need to do is come together and work on the problems together, not just be, identifying the problems, but really working together on them. And I feel very hopeful that we'll have a lot of people who want to be part of this and really make this as great a state as we can.
Well said.
And you think we can do better with the anger between two political parties and people fighting with each other?
That's hard.
They don't invite their relatives for dinner for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner because they don't agree with them.
Terrible.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah,
But
it's
that's
tough.
what's going on.
Exactly. And
Well, you can stop that.
The governors across this country have to serve the people regardless of the party they're in.
That's right.
They really do. And they have to balance a budget and they have to make the state work. And that's very appealing to me. It's really because no one wakes up in the morning and says, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. They worry about their families. And that's what they should be worrying about.
Well,
Correct.
thank you. Thank you for a wonderful time.
Thank you so much.
And we'll do it more often. Don't worry. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you for your time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Wasn't that interesting? That was really good. Good to talk to her.
wraps up another edition of
LivingTheGoodLifePodcast.com. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes, and we'll do it again soon. Stay tuned is right. Steve Kass, Deb Murray saying, have a wonderful, wonderful week.
So here's my question. You had it on green record, and did it not really record because it only records when it's on red?
Correct.
Well, you had
it
it
didn't
on...
record here, it recorded here.
Okay, all right.
But the audio was terrible on her end.
I couldn't tell. I can't tell well from mine.
Oh, it was awful.
Well, she had some garbled breaking up there. That was
Yes,
hideous.
quite a bit of it, too much, and that
Where's Diego?
that audio is much better.
Where's
than
Diego?
this.
Is Diego with us?
I don't know.
Let's go call him back, because dear God, why did hers suddenly get garbled? Well, if she was on the computer, I don't know what that was. I really don't know.
Well, she had no microphone, that's for sure.
No, she
And
probably
her
just...
mic in the computer was awful.
Okay, so I'm out of
Maybe
here.
it was the internet, I don't know.
So I'm out of here, right?
Or maybe it was their software. I
Maybe-
don't know what it was.
Call
It
Diego.
was terrible.
Let's call Diego.
It's
And
going
you
to take
kept-
me a while.
So you know what? You didn't put your thing on silence. That was a bad thing.
I did.
It was ringing.
Well, it didn't work. And I did put it on silence, and it didn't work.
Oh, fuck.
Tell me. Of course I did.
I'm going to go upstairs. Back in a minute.
Hello? Hi, Steve.
Hey, Diego, how you doing? Well, we got through it okay, but the audio was terrible.
Her audio was terrible at the
Her
very
audio.
least.
Audio?
Oh, yeah, the sound, it was distorted. and
Garbled, like
kept
broke up at
garbled
times.
and broke up a little bit. Not good.
I don't know. When I was talking with you guys, everything was good.
Yeah, so what could cause it?
Now, it was probably her computer. And we didn't,
Maybe her internet connection or...
we don't
I
know.
Honestly.
Maybe you give a listen and see what you think.
And so here's the question another question that I have. So it went through AirLink, which is its own program. We have Rodecaster that has the intro and outro of music, and so I guess it wasn't recorded through Rodecaster. It was only recorded through AirLink. Is that what it is?
No, I mean, imagine Airlink as a cell phone, guys. Like, it's just...
Okay, then I'm really worried because if that's
You know?
He's talking to someone.
I understand. So I get that, just like Zoom, I get that. But now when I look at this Rodecaster board, he had the Rodecaster REC, better known as record button, always on green, not on red. So how do I know that it was recorded? I hope it was,
It
because
was recorded in the computer.
So Steve says it's recorded through the computer. I'm saying
Well,
I
that's
thought it
what he
was...
said.
Okay. Right. The thing is, these are two different things.
Okay.
So the Rode will only record only audio.
Okay.
And on the computer, you will record audio and video.
Okay.
Everything that happened on there,
Yep.
that's recorded. You should have that file already on that computer.
Now-
Now, the Rode record, that's like an optional or the main, depending on what you guys normally do. If it was in green, then probably you guys need to click that one, okay? But the audio and the interview is on your social media accounts and recorded on that computer. So it is there.
Now, what?
I made sure that everything was running before leaving.
So where would I find it if I wanted to go look at it? Not at Spotify, where it gets uploaded right
Well,
to
we have to
Buzzsprout.
upload it. No, we have to do that. But that's what I'm looking at the screen, and I frankly don't know what to do with it.
That's what he's going to tell us
How
next.
do we give it to Buzzsprout or one of our the company that distributes the program.
The audio record, you mean, or the
Well, the whole show.
Airlink.
We wanted, now we didn't
whole
upload,
show?
we need to upload it to Facebook and to YouTube. How do we do that?
So Airlink, I don't know about that, but I
Hang
only
on, I just want to know that answer.
All right, so the file is in the computer. Let me just find you the file. I'll leave the folder open.
Okay,
And with that file, you can do whatever you want. All right?
okay,
You can either load it, share it to the person, to your guest, put it on the website, anything you want. Okay?
Facebook and
Just
YouTube
let
first.
me-
what format is that going to be in, Diego?
Let them do it. It's going to show you.
the video, you mean?
Whatever you got from Airlink, it's going to be an MP4, right? Or is it a W? No, what is it?
The thing is, it's not Airlink. Again, Airlink is just, you might, have you used Zoom or
All the time.
Skype or Teams?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's the same. It's just one extra. It's a tool to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
The HD mixer records in MP4.
MP4.
If that's your question.
Of course.
So the part I didn't hear is what records in MP4?
This,
Not Airlink. Not,
this, the computer.
What is this? The
It's
computer?
the HD mixer.
H-
Again, Airlink is just
Yeah.
a call out. It's like a digital cell phone, pretty much.
So the mix is a
An
mix.
HD mixer is the mix between the cameras, plus the Airlink, plus any graphics, the production side of it.
So I don't see on my computer here what that is, but you will.
Jesus Christ. The screen that we saw, when it ended, we didn't know what to do. That's what I have to know.
Yeah. I know it's a little bit different now, but we didn't have a chance to explain you in detail. Everything is there.
I'm sure.
Give me 1 second.
You gotta find it.
Oh, that's because you use Chrome. Alrighty. So actually everything, let me stop the record. And I'm also gonna stop the